Recap. This all started 7 years ago. Well, Abby, my younger sister, started to get sick, and no one in the family knew what was going on. I started to be dropped off at my grandparents as they went to different doctors, so a lot of time was devoted to my sister. It started with just staying the weekend at my grandparents', and then maybe the whole week. I would bring it up, and they told me that they would have to focus on Abby. Soon I was staying there for months. By the time I was nearly adult, I was basically living there full time. I would see them maybe every other month. If I texted them about the whole thing, the same response was always sent: "We need to focus on Abby right now." I'm 19 now, and Abby has passed away from her illness. I got a call today from my parents, and they wanted to meet up and be a family again. I told them that they abandoned one child for another. I am not their child anymore. That they have only one daughter, and she is 6 feet under the ground now. I soon hung up. I've been getting texts calling me an idiot, and that I should understand that they needed to focus on Abby, and to suck it up, basically. Update on am I the idiot for telling my parents they only have one daughter, and she is 6 feet in the ground? So, it's been around a month since I posted the original post. Thanks to everyone that gave their input. So, after the post, I wrote out a very long letter explaining my feelings about how my parents treated me and how they abandoned me for 7 years. I talked about all the major events that they missed and all the years that I could have been with my sister but couldn't due to their decision. That I haven't been part of the family ever since Abby got sick all those years ago. I talked about how my grandparents are more parents to me than they have been in these past years. That no matter the reason, they discarded me and acted as if their other kid didn't need their parents. That you may have lost Abby recently, but I lost my whole family a long time ago. And that I'm not going to give an empty apology for what I said on the phone. I sent this letter, and it was radio silent for a bit. And in the meantime, I went to my first on-campus college semester and started to use the free therapy. My parents contacted me and asked if I would like to get dinner and to hear them out. I agreed. It was a very long conversation that boiled down to, I'm willing to try to get to know my parents again under 2 conditions, and if they don't agree with them, I'm going to walk away since they are basically strangers at this point. 1, that we start to go to family therapy. 2, that they don't try to parent me. That position is for my grandparents only, and I'm willing to try a relationship with them, but it won't be a parent-child relationship. They don't seem happy with these conditions, but accepted. We went to our first family session a few days ago, and our relationship is still rocky, but I think it's getting better. I may be able to forgive them someday, but that day is far in the future. That is amazing that you were able to take your time and express what you needed in a letter to them. I do think that was the calmest and best way. Take care of yourself and make sure you move at your pace and not the pace that they want you to. You sound like a mature, strong woman, and I have confidence that you will maintain your own boundaries. Indeed, OP has grown into a good and mature adult because of her own innate personality and her grandparents' care. A lot of people would have fallen under the weight of their parents' abandonment, the mortality of their sibling, and other issues that crop up for most kids, or have turned into a spiteful person. However, OP is making peace with everything and setting strong and reasonable boundaries. So glad to hear it, OP. Hopefully everything works out and they don't endanger any more of your emotional stability. The fact you're trying says a lot of good about you, and your parents' response says a lot less to me. In my opinion, parents who really care and probably aren't narcissists wouldn't have this reaction and would do everything to make amends for their mishandling of the past. While I understand they were in a bind, they still handled their situation wrong and poorly in my opinion. Good luck, stay safe. Hope college/university works out well for you. My nearly adult girl, parents, 36 mom and 40 dad, divorced 4 years ago. In all honesty, their marriage was so sucky that it took me 6 months and my mother having to explain it twice for me to realize they were separating, and even then I didn't particularly care. Important info: both my parents cheated and got together with their affair partners. Dad cheated during their entire marriage with different women, but my mom cheated with my current stepdad for a year before they divorced. The situation by itself sucks, but there's no use finding someone to blame when the fault lays on both of them, so I'll just present the issue. I absolutely hate my stepmom, 37. She's unpleasant to me whenever I'm around. Bossy, always trying to goad me into arguments so that when I lose my temper, she can go and cry to my dad that I'm being mean to her. If I didn't know that woman absolutely hates children, I wouldn't be surprised if she tried to get my dad to have a do-over baby. As if that would work. Dad got a vasectomy after I was born. However, I really like my stepdad, 34. He's genuinely nice to me. Balances that careful balance between not really trying to parent me, but still being a reasonable authority figure. Think like an uncle. And he listens to me ramble about my hobbies without being judgmental. I also feel like the way they treat my parents actually matters in my perception of them. Stepmom treats dad like an ATM machine, but gets upset whenever he spends money on anything else. And stepdad treats my mom like she's the love of his life. And I don't know, I like seeing my mom so happy. My problem started on Father's Day. I made 2 posts on my Instagram where I honored both my dad and stepdad. Each of them had their own post with different wordings to explain our relationships. Sometime later, I got a call from my dad making an issue of it, not because I made my stepdad a post, but because when it was Mother's Day, I only posted my mother and not my stepmom, and she felt excluded and unloved. I explained my reasoning, but I'm still getting crap over it to this day, and both my dad and stepmom are low-key pressuring me to make a post about her this year. I'm sick and tired of this, y'all, and I just want to know if I'm the idiot here, because I'm starting to wonder if I'm in the wrong. You are not wrong here. Stand your ground. Write a letter with numbered posts as to the crap your stepmom has been doing to you when you are around. Then remind your dad that you are the child and she is an adult. And if she's upset that she didn't get a shout out on Mother's Day, then she needs to read your points for the explanation. Do not give in, because she'll continue crying to your dad whenever you post or do something for someone else because you didn't do anything for her. Here is your mantra. No one is entitled to receive anything from you. Your dad got all up in arms about you not making an Instagram post about your stepmom, huh? And still pressuring you to make one almost a year later? He's either caving to the unreasonable demands of a woman who sees you as competition for his attention, or he's one of those people who cares more about equality than equity. No wonder your mom wanted someone better for herself. I'm glad you have such a good relationship with your mom and stepdad, and I think you should stick to your guns and not make a Mother's Day post about a woman who refuses to be a mother to you. You are not wrong here. You are not the idiot. You should record her secretly being mean to you and then post that on Mother's Day. Then anytime afterward, if you ever have to deal with her and she starts acting up, just say, "Sweet, more material for my next Mother's Day post." Little background. My half-sister, let's call her Ellie, and I have different fathers. My mother and her father separated when she was a baby, but he always made a great effort to be in her life and support her. My father was around for 10 years, but after he left my mother, he didn't want contact. He paid no child support, and I desperately wished that my father would love me. Now, my sister, 27, and me, 21, usually talk to each other over the phone every day. At the beginning of last year, she meets a guy and they fall in love. A few months after, it came out that his ex-girlfriend is pregnant by him and that she soon will birth his child. My sister was devastated. We often talked about how she could leave him if that's too much for her, or that she could accept the child and maybe it would turn out good. She decided to stay with him, but after the baby was born, she told me that he didn't want to pay child support and that he tried to pressure the mother of his child not to try getting money from him. Also, she doesn't want him to see the child and wants him to move with her very far away from this child. I was shocked how she behaves. I mean, I didn't expect much from him, but she saw firsthand how cruel it can be for someone to feel like they're not wanted by their father. I told her that I don't find it okay, the way they handle this, and she just cut me off. We had for months no contact, and she felt like I owed her an apology for getting into her business, which I refused. She never told me that she didn't tell our family, except our mom, nothing about this child, but I slowly realized it. Yesterday, my grandparents called me and told me that Ellie acted weird, that she doesn't call anymore, and if they talk, she behaves weird. They asked her directly what was going on, but she didn't answer them. They were super worried, and I tried to escape this situation with telling them that Ellie is fine. They didn't believe me and asked me why I lied. I didn't feel comfortable, but then I told them that we don't speak to each other, how disappointed I am, and how they treat this child. My grandparents were super angry that they got lied to over months from her, and how they both treat this child. They stopped their financial support for her and are pretty furious. My sister called me and said that I destroyed her life because now she looks bad in front of our family. I'm really unsure if I was the idiot in this situation. Not the idiot. She looks bad because she's supporting a loser. Maybe it wasn't your business, but oh well. I'd have done the same thing. It's only fair to be honest. Also, what does she think? That if they have a child and for some reason split up, he won't do the same to her? You are not the idiot. She doesn't look bad. She's a toxic hypocrite. She wants to pretend the child doesn't exist. Both she and the father of the child don't want to provide support to a newborn. She's a 27-year-old adult. If she thinks that a child that can't even walk doesn't deserve support, why should she get financial support from your grandparents? She ruined her life herself. Actions have consequences, even outside of the law. She knew how the family would react. She looks bad because she did a horrible thing. It's all on her. You don't have to lie for her. At the end of the day, you are the one that has to live with your conscience, not her. In other words, don't do things for people that you feel are wrong. They may not lose any sleep over it, but you will. Unfortunately, your relationship with your sister and her relationship with the rest of the family will be a bit rocky for a while, if not non-existent. This is not Hollywood, and there are often consequences. My son Thomas passed away a year ago at the age of 25. He was such a sweet soul. He was kind and sympathetic. Despite having suffered so much, he still had a joyful smile. He wanted to be an engineer, but unfortunately, he couldn't continue his education. He was involved in an accident, had a severe injury, and became paralyzed. I did everything I could to help him regain his life, but what happened was devastating. We were spending time at the hospital while my family was getting together, celebrating birthdays, weddings, etc., and excluded me and Thomas. I asked them to show up, at least show emotional support to Thomas, but they didn't visit. I took Thomas home, and I became his primary carer. I found that Thomas was home 24/7 with no family visiting us, even on holidays. Every time I complained, my sister suggested I put Thomas in home care. I stopped begging them to visit and include Thomas in their events and check on him. They treated Thomas like he was dead. He suffered from anemia. It affected his heart function. His health was getting worse. 4 months before he passed away, I decided to achieve at least one goal he had in his mind. He always wanted to get his own yacht and wanted to buy it himself. I sold a land I had for 5 years and I bought a yacht. I told him that it was his. He was overjoyed. We started spending most of his time there, on weekends and on holidays, till he suddenly passed away, and it was devastating. I couldn't visit the yacht till 6 months after his passing. This is where I remember him the most. My family visited, made Facebook tributes, hanged pictures of him, and visited his grave. I was still upset with them. I kept my distance, but last week my mother and sister were visiting, asking if they could use my son's yacht for my sister's wedding this summer. I declined, but they talked about how expensive it is to rent a yacht and that mine was perfect. I corrected my sister, told her that's Thomas's yacht. Thomas, who they refused to visit and comfort during his dark times. My sister denied all that and said she didn't come to talk about the past and that as her brother, I should help her out. I argued with her and my mother after they said I was declining out of spite and called me selfish to punish them for Thomas's death. My brother said I was wrong because the family is keeping his memory alive by talking about him and that I should get therapy, otherwise I'll be causing people to cut me out. OP, if they did not visit once while he had all this, say, fine, you can use his yacht as many times as you visited him during that time. You are not the idiot, by the way. That is a great idea. Your sister is the one being selfish and cruel. She could have taken the time to comfort her nephew and support him and show him that he's loved, no matter the circumstances. But they all chose to be neglectful, cruel idiots. They don't get to ask a thing from you after they treated their nephew like that? You are not the idiot. Exactly. How dare OP punish them for their actions? The nerve! To me, doing things out of spite is okay sometimes, especially if the other person was 10 to the infinite power an idiot. Like, I don't know, only caring about a family member that is paralyzed only when they can get some kind of benefit. Exactly. People talk about spite like it's a negative trait, but really it just means you upset me in some way, so I'm not inclined to make you happy. That's a perfectly reasonable approach. Weird how it's only petty or spiteful when the party who started the upset can't get what they want. Because screw you, that's why, is a legitimate reason to refuse something. You are not the idiot. It's your property, so you decide who touches it. And they so obviously want it for free since they're whining about the expense. Honestly, I'd go low contact or no contact with them. You lose nothing because they provided nothing when you and your son needed them most. They couldn't be family when you needed them, so why should they be able to pull the family card when it comes to a stupid party that's all about your sister's precious pretty princess coronation? They couldn't be bothered to show up, so if I were you, I wouldn't bother to show up at their wedding. And frankly, they'd probably trash it and expect you to clean it up. My youngest niece, Raven, recently entered 2nd grade and was filling out an identity and names worksheet. It was pretty much about family members. You talk to 3 family or friends about their identity. Raven asked to call me on Skype and talk about her worksheet. She asked if I had kids, what I did for a job, etc. At the very end, she said, I already knew this question. I filled it out when we first started. I asked her what the question was. She said, your name is Whirly. I tell everyone my aunt has a cool name. I told her nicely that my name is actually Winona, and she's the only one that calls me Whirly, minus my sister. And my sister only calls me Whirly when she's talking about me to Raven. Raven got confused and I said, when you were little, you could not pronounce Winona and said Whirly instead. Your mom thought it was so cute. Raven asked if everyone calls me Whirly because it was cute. I told her honestly, everyone calls me Winona, including the other nephews, because I don't use a nickname outside of Winnie. Everyone I know calls me Winona, just like everyone calls you Raven. My niece finished her homework, talked about her school day, and we said goodbye. The next day, my sister called me in a fit of rage, saying I ruined her daughter's whole night because she called me Aunt Winona instead of Whirly. My sister then explained that when Raven called Uncle Top, my brother Christopher, she asked him, do you like being called Uncle Top? And when he said, actually, if you want to know, I go by Chris. So now Raven is upset. The other adults have told her they dislike their nicknames. And while I thought it was cute when she was little, I kind of hated the nickname. Am I the idiot? You are not the idiot. I understand children have a hard time pronouncing things, but as they get older, it's okay to set boundaries with preferred names and pronouns, etc. I don't think you did anything wrong. You just gave her your preference and prepared her for the real world. You are not the idiot. The problem here isn't that you don't like your nickname. It's that your sister insisted your niece call you something you didn't like because she thought it was cute. Your niece is long past the age where she could not pronounce your name or her uncle's name. She is sad because she has been calling you something you did not like, even though it isn't her fault. Your sister, on the other hand, is the idiot for being angry about it. It shows bad parenting that she would keep her daughter doing inconsiderate things because of the cuteness factor. Your poor niece for having your sister as a mom. You are not wrong here. Your sister seems to be the problem, not Raven. The kid probably just registered the name change and asked the next ones, and that is it. I doubt the kid had a meltdown or anything about the name. You can even tell Raven that Winona is a pretty cool name too. It's not that common and there are famous people that share your name.